Agitation leads into suppression. That suppression of desire, when you're not handled at that stage, that leads into repression. Even if you've not handled it at the suppression level, it gets into repression. At repression, at least you need to go and surrender to someone. If prolonged repression gets into depression. See, the question is tricky. You, the person there are levels of depression. There are grades of depression. But suppose, let's take the bottommost layer. If your depression it's of a high quality, it's of over long periods of time, then you'll need medical attention. You cannot handle it yourself. You need a doctor who can probably give you a course of action as to tell you how to come out of it. Now, as I said, there are grades of depression. So, if you find, as far as the Vedanta philosophy goes, Vedanta philosophy needs the fiber of the intellect to communicate. So, when I am talking to you all, I am not interested in the way you look, how you look, who you are, whether you have money, you don't have money. Vedanta philosophy is interested in your antakarana. Antakarana means your mind and intellect. What is the nature of your mind? What's the nature of your intellect? And for which, if you have a high intellect, if you have a relatively developed intellect, then the philosophy goes in womb. That's why it's a pleasure to talk to children. It's a pleasure because they are not muddled with different concepts. They don't have any preconceived notions. But if you go on talking to adults, they say, sir, I don't agree with you. You don't agree with me. If you don't agree, you suffer. No master will want to thrust the knowledge on people. So, the fiber of the intellect has to be available in order to communicate. So, if the depression is relatively less, and if you are thinking, let's say if you're 50% depressed and 50% your mind is functioning and 50% your intellect is functioning, which is very, very high, immediately you will know that yes, I think I'm depressed. You need to analyze. The intellect starts an analysis that yes, this is the reason, this is what has happened, how I got into depression. So, when you understand that this is the reason, this is the analysis, you know the starting point and the ending point, then it's not difficult. But sometimes there could be grades of depression who are slightly more depressed. You understand the starting point, but you don't realize how you've reached the ending point. But there is still a fiber of the intellect which tells you that I want to get out of this state. I don't want to live this life. I don't want to live this life. So then you surrender to a person whereby you give all information and you want to seek help. A master who knows about life. A teacher who's truly interested in helping you. But when you surrender, your surrender has to be complete. You cannot have half surrender. You cannot have half faith. You cannot be half devoted. You need to have full faith. You need to have full surrender. You need to be fully devoted. Only then will you get help. So, depression, coming out of depression is taking enough knowledge, analysis and understanding that I need to get out of this state sooner or later, especially if you have obligations. Especially if you have obligations like children. Especially if you have obligations, it may not be children, it could be parents. It could be your children at work. If you're a CEO, you need to take care of 100, 200 people. How can you afford yourself to be depressed? And let's say you get depressed and you still have the intellect. You need to take guidance how to come out of it. Marriage people get easily depressed. All husbands are depressed. At least they say they're depressed to us, but to you all they don't say depressed. See, the best friend of all married men, the best friend of mostly all married men who drink is the bartender. The bartender is one where every person who drinks goes on talking to the bartender. So the bartender becomes friendly to all husbands, and the husbands vent their frustration to all the bartenders, saying that, "Arey, you have no idea." So the bartender asked, "Arey, how come you've come to drink?" "Arey, don't ask, yeah. She has betrayed me. Don't ask. Today I am drinking because she has said something. All my life I have served her and she said I'm useless, so I want to drink." So therefore the bartender is a philosopher. Looking at all the drunken people, he doesn't get married. And if the bartender gets married, then he must be drunk. So why are you getting depressed? The first signs of depression comes with a fine line of agitation. If you are agitated, you have to find out what is the desire. And if your desire is selfish or not. Try to serve people. The moment you serve people, you are not depressed. The moment you are selfish and self-centered, you get agitated. So that agitation leads into suppression. That suppression of desire, when you are not handled at that stage, that leads into repression. That repression, again, when not handled at that stage, is like a falling ball. A ball which is falling down from the staircase. Even if you've not handled it at the suppression level, it gets into repression. At repression, at least you need to go and surrender to someone. If prolonged repression gets into depression, very fine depression, you are still not deep, still a person can help you. But once you are in a prolonged stage of depression, then no philosopher, no one can help you. What can help you is probably medical treatment. So you need to take medical treatment for that. So that's how there are various grades of depression which needs to be handled.